Good afternoon. I'm Assistant Sheriff Andrew Walsh. I'm here to brief you today on the additional details that we know with regards to the officer-involved shooting event that occurred on Tuesday, September 21st, 2021. This is officer-involved shooting number 6 for 2021. This is the third fatal officer-involved shooting we've had so far this year. Compared to the same time last year, we had 15 officer-involved shootings, 7 of which were fatal. This event was called in as a battery with a deadly weapon at 9:23 a.m. on September 21st, 2021. The officer-involved shooting occurred in the 300 block of South 11th Street, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89101 in the downtown area command. And you can see the image of this neighborhood on the screen to my left. The involved officer is Officer Zachary Adam. He is 41 years old and has been with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department since 2006. In this incident, Officer Adam was armed with a LaRue Tactical .308 rifle. The investigation revealed that Officer Adam fired one round during this incident. Officer Adam is assigned to the Homeland Security Division. Specifically, he is assigned to the Special Weapons and Tactics Bureau, the SWAT team. The suspect in this incident was identified as Trent Xavier Leach. He was a 30-year-old white male adult. He was 5'7" and weighed 200 pounds. And Mr. Leach's photograph is on the screen to my left. In this incident, Mr. Leach was armed with a black semi-automatic Beretta APX 9mm handgun, and the investigation revealed that he fired approximately 20 rounds during this incident. If he had survived, Mr. Leach would have been charged with battery with a deadly weapon, assaulting a public officer with a deadly weapon, resisting a public officer with a deadly weapon, discharging a firearm at or into an occupied vehicle, and discharging a firearm from, at, or into an occupied structure. The details of the officer-involved shooting are as follows. On Tuesday, September 21st, 2021, at approximately 9:23 a.m., the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department Dispatch Center received a call from a citizen reporting that there were 2 males in an argument and that one of the males was armed with a handgun. The address given by the caller was the 400 block of South 11th Street. The male with the handgun was later identified as Trent Xavier Leach. The 2 Las Vegas Metropolitan Police officers that were in the area investigating a vacant property that needed to be boarded up responded to the area and found Mr. Leach and the other male arguing in the alley near East 11th Street. The officers attempted to detain Mr. Leach, but he refused, and he fled on foot and ran away from the officers as they attempted to contact him. The officers initiated a foot pursuit and followed Mr. Leach until he made his way into a vacant building located in the 300 block of South 11th Street. The officers quickly recognized the need to set up a perimeter on the building and treat this situation as a barricaded armed subject. Our officers are trained to slow the momentum and call in additional resources in situations like this to assist in de-escalating the situation and attempting to communicate with the suspect, hopefully bringing incidents like this to a peaceful resolution. Shortly after SWAT and crisis negotiators arrived, a different male that had been sleeping in the vacant building came out and confirmed that Mr. Leach was inside the building and he was armed with a handgun. Our SWAT negotiation team attempted to communicate with Mr. Leach for several hours, and at some point during this attempt to negotiate, Mr. Leach began shooting from inside the building toward the officers. Through the cross of the barricade, Mr. Leach fired approximately 20 rounds. And there are photos on the screen of the Bearcat that SWAT utilizes, which you can see was struck by gunfire. And I believe there's a photograph of a residence that's a second-story window of an apartment located directly to the south of the building where Mr. Leach was, that was occupied and struck by gunfire during this incident. Mr. Leach's reckless and dangerous actions not only endangered the lives of the officers, but the lives of citizens who live in the neighborhood. At approximately 2:33 p.m., while using the door frame of the church that leads to the backyard, Mr. Leach used the door frame as cover and pointed his firearm towards the officers. In response to Mr. Leach pointing his firearm at officers, SWAT officer Adam fired one round from his rifle, striking Mr. Leach. At this time, a team of SWAT officers then approached Mr. Leach to provide medical aid, and medical personnel pronounced him deceased at the scene. We'll now play some videos from this incident. The first video you're going to see is from the actual initial contact between the patrol officers from the downtown area command and Mr. Leach and the original victim in this crime.
Hey, come here! Hey, come here! Come here! Fuck you! Come here! Get in front of the car! Take your hands out of the pocket!
Control 6 out of 9. We got an HMA with a gray shirt, black shorts.
Let me see your hands!
The back right front, that's the main guy with the 413.
Take your hands out of the pocket
He's backing
now!
out, going to Bridgers, now listen to him.
Come here, sir. You come here. Leave. Pull it.
Hey, Copper, make sure
I got you. I got you. Got you. Hey! Hey, go, run. Go.
Still trying to lift him up.
Come here! Give me your hands! Get your hands out of your pocket! Come on, bro, you're not even in trouble here, let's go! What are you gonna do? Come here! Let's go, come here! You're just gonna make it worse, bro, come on! Talk to me! You're not even in trouble! Come on! Just come here, bro!
So as you can see from that video, that's where the officers originally contacted Mr. Leach. He ran from the original scene and then was located in the alley just about a block away. And you could see in that video where the officers are attempting to de-escalate the situation by shouting commands at him. And you could also hear Mr. Leach in that video yell, "Shoot me." This second video now is taken from inside the structure where Mr. Leach was barricaded. And we could play that from here. So in this video, you can see Mr. Leach is armed with a handgun, and he comes into the room where we had a robot, and he climbs on the robot and disables the robot. And there's a close-up view of the firearm. And in this last video, this is moments before the officer fired the round, and you'll see the firearm come out from behind the door, pointed in the direction of the SWAT officers and the officers that had set up containment on the building. And as I said earlier, this occurs at the end of Mr. Leach firing approximately 20 rounds from inside of the structure. And that's the same video, that's the same prior to the shot being fired. You could see Mr. Leach standing in the doorway. This is taken from one of our robots that was deployed, and you could see him reaching out from beyond the door jamb and pointing his firearm at the officers. And that concludes our briefing.
When you say robot, do you mean the drones, or is there another type of equipment?
We did have drones and robots deployed, but in this incident, what the footage you see here is from the robots.
Mr. Leach have a criminal history at all?
Yes, and you can get that from our records bureau. That's available upon your request.
How close were the officers when he's pointing his gun out the door at them?
I think we came up with 40 feet was the measurement of where the sniper was. Where's the
107 yards.
107 yards?
107 feet, sorry.
Excuse me, 107 feet.
When you talk, we can ask for the specifics of the criminal history later, but did he have a violent criminal history?
I'm not going to discuss the criminal history. It's just something that in these briefings where in the past we discussed criminal history and we're vilified for talking about someone's criminal history, so that's available upon you can go to our records bureau and through the normal channels, because we're just not going to do that.
Were any civilians injured? You said that gunfire hit an occupied structure.
Right. No, we had no civilians injured, luckily, in this incident. Only the first civilian that Mr. Leach had the encounter with, he was struck in the face with the firearm by Mr. Leach, so that is where one of the counts of would have applied to him. We had a civilian victim, but not from the structure, not from the firing inside the structure. Those residences, as close to they were and as how many rounds were being fired, were it's problematic for us to attempt to evacuate those, so folks were sheltering in place. And you could see how close they were.
Any charges for the other person involved in that initial fight or any idea?
No, he was a victim. Yeah. All right. Thank you all very much.